Hello everyone, I'm Joshua Chrysostom, architecture fifth year student. I'm going to report about the architecture in America from colonial to postmodern era. The outline of my discussion includes the origin or history of America, characteristic of architecture types in each era, the famous building and structures in America. Americans, American architecture, which began in 17th century with colonization of the North American continent. This colonial-era architecture is diverse, which includes Spanish, English, Scot-Irish, Dutch, German, French, and Swedish. Each group of immigrants brought with them the style and building practices of their mother country, adapting it to the conditions of their new homeland. After the Great War, where Americans gained their independence and democracy, neoclassical type of architecture is created. They show the classicist type and strong independence of the United States. With the continuous prosper of America after World War I, the great building development era in the United States started. This is called the Art Deco architecture, where European avant-garde movements use technological innovations and the new opportunities offered by new building materials in the search of suitable forms to express the spirit of times. Modernist architecture. Not only does Art Deco prosper, but also the modernist architecture in America. It is an attempt to create new designs for the modern man. It rejected all traditional styles based on the older prototypes and proposed new type of functional design which used modern materials and construction techniques to create a new aesthetic and sense of space. This type of architecture is the opposite of Art Deco that proves that less is more or minimalist outlook in design. Postmodernist architecture 1960 witnessed the beginnings of a general dissatisfaction with consequences of 20th century architecture in the United States. They point out that modern architecture had excluded traditional historic forms as well as decorative elements for its repertoire. This combines all types of architecture present in the United States until this day. Next is characteristics. Colonial architecture. The characteristic of colonial architecture includes seven basic colonial designs, which includes Spanish colonial architecture or Baroque architecture, England colonial architecture or English model architecture, Dutch colonial architecture or stone and brick designs, Swedish colonial architecture, American log cabin designs, Pennsylvania colonial, Gregorian type style of architecture, French colonial architecture Quebec style, and Southern colonial architecture brick-built structures with large chimneys. This is the example of colonial architecture in America. Neoclassical architecture. The characteristic of neoclassical architecture includes two basic barriers, federal style and Greek revival. Federal-style architecture describes a loose, classicist style, which has a characteristic of neo-antique features including Greek and Byzantine elements, to symmetrical Gregorian style, while Greek Revival architecture used group-style architecture that shows the grandiose appearance of Greek temples and structures. This is the example of neoclassical architecture in America. Next is Art Deco. This type of architecture is known as the style modern, which give people the images and objects that reflected their desire for speed, luxury, and modernity. It glorified the machine age and geometric forms, as well as new materials and technology. This is the example of Art Deco design in America. Next is modernism or modernist architecture, which focuses on avant-garde art, which has grand designs with simplified forms and only the sort of essential ornamentation that reflected the theme and structure of the building. This is the example of modernist design. Lastly, postmodern architecture focuses on brutalist architecture, which describes the geometric concrete structure that encourages functional patterns of living by eliminating all ornament and other visual distractions. Furthermore, the point is to rehumanize architecture by using a mixture of styles, including features taken from classical designs as well as those from popular culture. Playful irony plus occasional surprise, even shocks, have all been essential part of the postmodernist approach to the building design. This is the example of postmodernist design in America. Now, I am going to give you examples of famous buildings in America, which includes all type of architecture from different eras. Colonial era. These are the examples of colonial era buildings in America. Becket Ribot Roselle in Missouri, French colonial type architecture, Spanish colonial Gonzalez Alvarez House in Florida, and Dutch colonial Bronx House in New York. These are the example of neoclassical era buildings in America: United States Capitol in Washington, D.C., and White House in Washington, Wisconsin Capitol in Madison, Wisconsin. These are the example of Art Deco era buildings in America: Chrys- Chrysler Building in New York City, Empire State Building in Manhattan, New York, and Chicago Board of Trade Building in Chicago. These are the example of modern era buildings in America: Roby House and Larkin Administration Building in New York, in Chicago, and postmodern era building in America, which is named Binocular Building in Los Angeles, California. This architecture, the architecture in America, is just a part of overall architecture in the world. If these developments and ever-changing designs and arts continues to evolve, we hope that in the future we will gain the beauty and aesthetic that we have envisioned in the past, where all are considered as one with unity and harmony. A future that we all shape with hardships and dreams from for the future generations and beyond. Thank you.